think in general, and I've seen this through the years, most people hunt too fast and too hard. They're looking for that next hot turkey to come in. And I'm guilty of that as well. But the more I hunt, the older I get, the slower I hunt. Just slow down and go at a snail's pace and you'll kill more turkeys. If you've got a decoy present, you're probably not going to screw it up. Yeah. But then again, he may not gobble to you because oftentimes when they make visual contact and they've honed in on the decoy and they're coming to him, a lot of times it's impossible to make that turkey gobble because he's already coming. But if there's not a decoy and he's looking, you can generally make that turkey gobble. But a lot of times you're better off make sure he's within range before you do that. Yeah, and you can kind of see it. Like I've seen turkeys at a distance just picking along and feeding, and then you get to the edge of the field and you just, I got to get the turkey fired up. So you're calling, and all of a sudden he gets disinterested in the feeding and starts looking for the source of that hen more. And then all of a sudden you see that color come into his head and you're like, oh, he's paying attention now. You keep calling, keep hammering him, and you can see their body posture change. And then when he faces you, he's really getting interested. If he puffs up a little bit, and then when they drop down and that head goes down and they start facing you, you're going to kill that turkey.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Drury Outdoors 100% Wild podcast. I don't know what episode number this is.
It doesn't matter, Tim.
No one's stopping us.
We're just over 400. It doesn't matter until we get to 500.
Is that like when you hit your 40th birthday and you just kind of stop caring about birthdays?
You're Tim Chelswick.
Yeah, you continue to be Matt Drury.
We got a special guest in studio with us today.
Uncle Mark Drury.
The Madman. Hall of Famer times 3, HOF.
He's racking up these Hall of Fame inductions.
Is there any left?
Oh, you guys are too kind.
So we did go into it in a little great detail when we got back from NWTF. I did an episode. Tim wasn't on it, but I did an episode where we kind of recapped the Hall of Fame induction and kind of the speech. I just went over some of what I felt like were some of the key points of the speech. I mean, he really hit a lot of great points about conservation and about just kind of why we're in it or why we should be in it, maybe. And I kind of took it back to the convention itself and how exciting it was. They broke another attendance record. It was like 82,000 people.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, super exciting. But with that, you have a lot of new people introduced into a hunting tradition that we've all known and loved for a long time. And I thought your speech kind of was pretty poignant in the fact that maybe some of the new folks, as they come in, it's up to the old guard to not preach, but teach some of those things that the reasons why you got into it when you did, when the resource maybe wasn't as in the same state it is right now.
Well, then the resource was good, but then we've seen this decline, and now it's starting to climb back up from a lot of the things the changes that were made out there in the industry. So, but our work's not done. I mean, we've got some miles to go with a lot of areas in the country. The numbers are still quite low. Areas that were phenomenal back when I was, going to Georgia. There's areas down there where the turkeys are almost MIA in a lot of different landscapes. So we've got to continue to do our work. And you've seen a change in conservation departments across the country, moving the seasons later, taking the bag limits down. All of those things are starting to work. And in addition to that, the drought we've been in, although it's rough for deer, it sure helps the turkey hatch in the spring.
Sure.
The drier the spring, the better the hatch traditionally. And that's certainly been the case the last 3 or 4 springs. So,
and I think a lot of people are going back to their roots with the predator control, trapping, the things that fire, introducing fire to their properties and having the better habitat for poults and poult production in general. So I think a lot of those things have helped, but in those areas where it's not doing well, what do you think is the issue? Is it that maybe too much, are we evolving as far as like more neighborhoods and taking away more of the habitat in general in that regard? Or is it that it's as simple as, hey, we can introduce more trapping and predator control and the habitat improvements and fix it?
I think it's all the above. Dr. Chamberlain loves to say it's death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah.
And it's with the wild turkey, there's such a precious resource that little bitty things make a big difference. Predator control, habitat, just as simple as laying off of the strutting gobbler that has all the hens with him. We started doing that. We started making sure, and I don't know if you guys recall that podcast with Dr. Chamberlain maybe 5 years ago. He brought that up in that podcast. We started doing that. And we've seen a huge difference just not going after the gobbler that's got all the hens. Go after that group of 2 or 3 because he's the one doing the breeding.
Oh, I wouldn't have thought of that.
Well, yeah, that was kind of his thesis, is that even though there may be gobblers, mature toms around, that the hens would just they're not having them. Yeah,
they want the breeding tom.
So you take out that alpha tom, and then the hens may not even.
Which plays into the theory, put the seasons later so that the breeding has already occurred before the hunting pressure starts. Yeah. So all of these changes are definitely helping. And I think the more awareness we create, us as a group and all of our friends in the industry, and the unbelievable job the Turkey Federation has done and is doing, Turkeys for Tomorrow, both of those groups deserve a huge pat on the back because they've got the resource in mind, and so do we, and so do a lot of our friends, because we did see, hey, they're not here forever, you know?
Right.
I used to hear 20 here, now I hear 3. Wait a minute, what changed? And to your, in answering your question, it's a lot of things that we can do better, and I see it changing and turning right now. So it's kind of exciting.
So when you guys see a boss tom with a group of hens,
lay off. We just let him go.
Huh.
Yeah.
And then, so you're kind of searching for those groups where it's 2 or 3,
and some of that's
gobblers together, and
some of that's dependent on the time of the year. If it's early season, a youth season, and you can clearly see that's the breeding group, go after that group of 3 or 4 2-year-olds that are gobbling, that type of stuff. But later in the season, once they all get separated and you're down to a gobbler and a hen, it's probably not as big a deal. But early on in the season, those big breeding groups, you really, really ought to think twice about potentially harvesting that bird.
Interesting.
We've been doing it. It seems to work. Huh. But once he frees up, then we'll hunt him later in the year.
Yeah.
We'll circle back to him later.
You kind of have this luxury, of course, because you have these little satellite farms here and there, and a lot of little permission pieces for turkey season. So you guys have internal data, I guess, where you said, okay, last year we killed
for sure
on this farm. We're going to lay off this farm this year. Not everybody has that luxury, but that's something that I guess you can take into account as well.
I still think even if you have one spot, you can monitor it through time and go, what's the trajectory here? Is the amount of gobbling turkeys I'm hearing going down, or is it going up? How many jakes am I seeing annually? How many am I harvesting? So we monitor all of those through time on all of our different spots, how many jakes we're seeing, how many birds we're hearing, and how many we harvest. Yeah. And then through time, you can make really good decisions about the future. In general, if we have a good jake hatch and we're seeing plentiful amounts of jakes, groups of 2, 3, 4, and 5, if we're hearing, call it 6 birds, we might kill a bird or 2 off that property. Okay. We're not going to go kill half of them, but we might kill a quarter of them, so we still put the brakes on in terms of how many we're harvesting.
Yeah.
So it's our own trigger finger management in a lot of cases, I remember back in the day, I never thought in these terms. We just went, turkey's gobbling, go kill him. That's an invitation to kill
95% of the turkey hunting.
And it's not necessarily, I think, the smartest way to manage turkeys. I think turkeys need management, perhaps more so than white-tailed deer.
You got guys out there, they're super conservationists that will buy a tag and not kill anything all season. Yeah, I gotta say, after we wrapped last week's show, Matt was like, seriously, did you kill a bird last year? I don't remember.
I just didn't recall, Tim. All right. We're not as close as we once were. I didn't keep up with your season like I used to.
Apparently. It does kind of all blend into one, like when you see so many animals get killed, it's hard to recall. I can't keep track of what my friends kill during
these guys will kill season. Amongst all the guests and the crew that they got and the couple 3, 4 states they go to, I mean, just them alone, it's hard to remember what they've killed. So
a lot of turkey nuggets.
Yeah. So I don't know. And plus the team and, Terry's crew, and I can't recall what I did last year.
I was talking about a farm the other day with Terry, and he killed a bird there, I think in 2020 on Coondog's birthday, May the 4th. And I was talking about that ridge plot, and he goes, have I been there? I said, yeah, you killed a turkey there. So he was like, man, I'm just not recalling it. So I sent him a picture of me, him, Coondog, and Wade.
With a newspaper with the date.
Yes, proof of death on this plot with him behind the turkey. I go, this is the plot, And he goes, I'm just kidding.
I'm not ringing a bell. It's you sure that's me in the picture?
Some other handsome devil. My favorite all-time clip of you guys is the turkey that was not quite dead.
Oh yeah,
in Kansas.
Terry
the
gets
slow
up,
recognition of
and he knocks its head down, like, get back down.
That wasn't even the most bizarre part of that morning. If you go back and watch the full hunt, that morning there was this guy dressed in just normal street clothes, just looked like a zombie walking through the woods right by us. We filmed him and he never knew we were there. And then we killed the turkey right after that. But just this odd looking guy just walking through the woods right after first light. We were like, perhaps a mushroomer, or I don't know.
Method.
Who knows what types of mushrooms he was doing. But I don't know. Do you remember that part of the hunt?
I
Just
don't.
this weird guy walking through the woods, and we were like,
I don't remember that. The part I remember is
and
after.
maybe we didn't air him, but I remember it vividly because we were like, who is this guy?
I remember after the turkey got up and ran off and Terry shoots him again, that he falls to his death into a creek that Terry had to go into to get him, and he slips in and his whole boot got filled with water. That's what I recall. It was like just a chain of events there.
A few years ago on a piece I was hunting, it was like a beautiful morning, birds are gobbling, and like at first light I see something big and white moving down the edge of the tree line in the creek that kind of lined the creek there through the property. I'm like, what is that? And it's kind of moving to my right, and I see more movement. It's two people with a huge white dog. And it's a guy and a lady, and the guy has a certified hobo bindle over his shoulder and then a can of gas. And they had cut through the property to go fill their car broke down on an adjacent highway, and they had cut through to get to a gas station. And I was like, it was I had really expected to see birds fly off this particular piece of timber, but then this guy and this lady were walking through with their dog.
It's brave to be walking around the woods during turkey season like that. Yeah. Doing a little stupid,
probably unbeknownst to them.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Oh yeah, they had no idea. I was like, "Hey guys, what are you doing?" Oh yeah, we broke down.
So I saw the other day, I guess maybe Wade or Perry was switching gears a little bit on you. I saw they put up a set of stories about a shed trap you guys put up.
Oh yeah.
I was talking to Perry about in the office. I was like, that's actually a pretty good idea to give them a heads up that you did it. Maybe
we're giving you a warning, because we're going to prosecute if we catch you. There was this group of 5 local boys that another buddy of mine caught in this method. Mm-hmm. And when the game warden came there, they were like, we're going after all the TV spots. Everybody, we see the deer and we want to go get their sheds. They just came clean and said what they were doing, So we were like, but anyway, so now we're out with our stealth cams trying to catch them or whomever,
Perry was all over it. He's like, I'm going to catch them.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's a deterrent. I mean, it's crazy to me knowing if they know our stuff that well, they know all those sheds go to Catch a Dream.
Well, and now it's a modern day with Deercast. Look how good the maps are in there, right?
Oh yeah.
With the parcel data, and this is not a Deercast plug, but it's much easier now than it used to be before the electronic apps came out in terms of who owns what.
Yeah.
But back in the day, this same buddy caught some guys, he caught these guys with a cell cam. Back in the day, he saw a truck, he followed the footprints in the snow, and then called his buddy to go around the section, and they caught this guy red-handed. And that guy had a full binder of maps with every major farm in the area, mine included.
Wow.
And he was from Wisconsin, and he was coming every single year. And I think they got pretty rough with this guy, and then he came clean. But he had hundreds and hundreds of sheds through the years. Hundreds of sheds. Like he was a professional, he was a serial shed poacher.
And these are all big sheds.
Some are, certainly.
There's kind of a continuum of trespassing. Like there's a shed on the other side of that fence there in this timber that no one goes in.
Right.
Like that's one level. But to make an interstate trip with a binder, that's insane.
He took them to his hotel room, and it was full of sheds, full of them. He'd been there for several days.
Remember that NASA lady that put the diaper on to travel across the country to
hook up? I do remember that. Yeah,
it's like that's that level of crazy.
Yeah, it's just it's nuts, and our message was simple, go steal them somewhere else. Like, you're stealing from Catch a Dream. You're not stealing from us. Like, we're not collecting these sheds. We simply want them so that we can auction them off to benefit Catch a Dream. So
Dream shed
if you're that big of a dirt bag to come in, well, then we're gonna stick it to you.
Yeah.
So, but yes, we were like, we're gonna warn them. If they're still dumb enough to come in, then they really deserve to be caught.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't understand it. Were they? I guess are they younger? Is this group a younger group?
Early 20s.
Yeah,
that group was.
Then you understand a little bit. They're dumb.
A little bit more.
Immature.
I would just be too anxious the whole time.
Oh my God! As many cell cameras are
this
there?
Day and age with cell cams, it's like you got to be crazy.
I just did a piece on for Deercast 365 that we filmed last week, where I turned the parcels on, and I mean it's on a piece that I've hunted for a long time, so I knew where the property line was. But it's like, all right, here you turn the parcel data on. And I walked if your fences are down, like there's no excuse to your point about like all the digital mapping services out there.
You know where you're at.
You know where you're at.
Yeah.
And this is another way to kind of walk, when you're shed hunting, turn your parcel lines on and you stay on your side and walk in. It's not that hard anymore. So it's a hard, like, even if you caught somebody that they were like, oh, I had no idea. It's like, that's hard to believe in this day and age.
Oh, this day and age. Yeah. Yeah. That's not a valid excuse.
No.
Oh, the speed limit is 55 here?
Yeah. Ignorance of the laws.
Yeah. I caught some guys cutting through one of my properties. They were hunting an adjacent piece this past year, and I got the cell cam ping on my command app. And so I literally drove out because I knew the parking area where it was like a public parking access. And I drove out, but I just like they were heading out to hit Highway 44 and head westbound. And
what would you have done if you would have caught them?
I would have
beat them.
I would have given them a really hard, that hard look I give people that really intimidates them.
A finger in the chest.
I would have thought about it. I left a strongly worded note in the parking area
for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they never came back.
Just so you guys know.
I got you.
But just that real time intel that you get of like, I live maybe 12 minutes away from this spot. I was able to drive out right away. And
well, that's what Perry was saying. He's like, I live right there.
Yeah.
He's like, I can be there in a minute.
Did he tell you about the guy we caught a couple seasons ago doing that?
I don't think so.
We baited one up because we had intel. They came to us and they said, hey, so-and-so's bragging about getting your sheds off of this farm every year. Okay. So we put cell cams up and sheds in front of all of them, had him within 2 or 3 days. It was plain as day who it was, and I went to the game warden and we sent it to him and he was like, oh, I've been trying to catch this guy, and he got caught on 2 properties the same week, mine and someone else's, and he got tickets for both.
I wonder if, since the kind of the popularity of cell cameras, if that's gone down at all from a game warden perspective. It'd be interesting.
You would think, but if you got the next group of young guys ready to go, and this guy wasn't young. He's probably in his mid 30s.
And you hear, we should probably have an MDC agent on at some point. You hear them going on social media because people, if they're dumb enough to do it in the first place, they're also dumb enough to brag about it and they'll post it up. And
well, it's just like that CJ Alexander guy that got caught poaching that deer. Like, it was all digital footprint that got it, like TikTok or some Snapchat or something like that. It's like,
this son of a gun. Like, I know he got, because that farm hadn't been shed hunted yet, and I know there was a bunch in there, and he was smart enough when the game warden got to him and showed him the picture, which I think if the game warden would have asked his questions before showing the picture, but he let him know he had him. But the guy was smart enough to say that was the only shed I found in there.
Well, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. But I told him, I said, I just want the sheds back.
Yeah.
I said, if he gives me the sheds, because I'm selling them for Catch a Dream, I won't press charges. But he only gave the one back, so we still took it.
Perfect. Yeah, it's terrible. The Catch a Dream, total side note, a local restaurant that's affiliated kind of with Pappy's, Adam's Smokehouse, they do a Catch a Dream fundraiser every year since Adam Wainwright was on Dream Season Celebrity.
Awesome.
And theirs was this Saturday. So they're opening it up from like 11 to 6 or whatever, but just like Pappy's, like when they sell out, they're done.
Yeah.
So we went to get dinner there. I thought we were early enough. We get there at 4. And I'm walking in and all the chairs are up on the tables. They had sold out. And then they're like, we had a fundraiser today. I was like, oh, no problem. I just gave them some cash. And I actually met Pappy's daughter was there. It was pretty interesting. But
that's cool.
The Adam, he I guess he passed away. The guy who the store's named after, his dad was there, but they had all the Catch a Dream little pictures and stuff
Awesome.
up, and yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So
Nice. We should hit the shout out.
shout it out, Timmy.
It's great that Matt listened to the peasants and allowed Tim to return and bring back the funny side of the podcast with his witty comments.
I find this funny.
Jeremy L. Gunn.
Tim out
a
of
real
nowhere.
person.
We should hit the shout out. Oh, it just so happens it's
Yeah,
about me.
In fact, we
In
can
fact, I wrote it.
pretty much end the show. I think we've covered
In
everything.
fact, I am Jeremy L. Gunn.
I wish. That's a cool name.
That is a cool name. You got to throw the L in there. Well, I
Yeah.
appreciate the shout out, Jeremy. If you want to leave one anywhere that you watch or listen to the podcast, leave us a shout out, like, subscribe, share it with your friends. All that good stuff helps us out and helps our sponsors.
We've
out.
got some cool guests coming up this spring,
Do
too.
we? We do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mark?
Well, of course. Goes without saying.
I know we got Cuz.
Yes.
Coming up.
That I'm really
Awesome.
excited about that
Yeah.
show.
Yeah. We're going to working on a few more.
I've been
Mhm.
following his hunt for the Wounded Warriors down
Yeah.
in Florida. His
Yeah.
guy killed one this morning. Like
Good.
every day there's been one more that killed, and Cousins was the last one, but it was kind of cool how the way, covered that so well. I don't know if you guys follow him on social,
I
but
do. Yeah.
Yeah.
his guy killed one this morning. So that was cool.
He's it's interesting to see an older guy like that adapt social media and digital like YouTube and all that, as well as he podcasts as well as
Yeah,
he did.
he's all over it.
and thrive with it.
He's all over it.
And
man.
I know he gives a lot of credit to his daughter Lauren, but
For
still
sure.
he does a really good job with it. And
Yeah,
people
he
love
does.
his stuff.
Yeah, he's staying relevant.
A great ambassador.
Yeah. Yeah. You'd be hard pressed to find someone who doesn't love that guy.
Amen.
So as we're kind of gearing up for turkey season,
And not to interrupt you, Cuz was so instrumental in the start of our business. Like when I had a question about video stuff, I'd call Cuz, because I knew Cuz through the calling circuit, specifically down at Natchez, where he was the manager of that sporting goods store. And I got to know Cuz very well, not long before, but a couple years before Toxie. And he was so instrumental. Like we edited our first videos at VideoWorks in Jackson, Mississippi, because we didn't think St. Louis had studios. We went to where Cuz edited his stuff with Primo. So Cuz is a huge part of our roots as far as Drury Outdoors is concerned.
I thought you were going to take us back to the shout out for this week, but
what do you mean?
I think we moved on.
it's just a fun one to keep talking
Tim.
about.
Tim never moves on.
Not
Like
what's
a
about
dog
him.
with the bone.
I swear that the couple people that were mentioning, oh, thank God Tim's back, I thought, Tim's got to be friends with these people.
Wait a minute.
Well, they said there was humor involved. So I'm like,
That's where he drew the line.
The first
that's when it lost credibility for me.
One of the first meetings that when I first started here, Taylor was here for a meeting, and we were talking about like I think one of Zach Plale's hunts, and I was like, I bet he sees a lot of dead people, and Taylor was like, of course he's like a coroner or an undertaker. And I was like, oh, that was the joke. It was funny for me.
Usually that's
Right.
where it stops.
An audience of one.
Have you had Zach on?
You know what? Have we? I'm trying to think.
I bet he'd be a good guest.
I think I've mentioned you were like,
Okay.
no way.
Yeah, right. He came to St. Louis last year for that first form knockdown challenge. Him and Gabby. And he and I hunted during the turkey season. He filmed me for a little bit, so I guess
The whole time he's wondering, when's he going to invite me?
maybe
on?
that would have been the time. I'll have to reach out to Zach. Sorry, Zach, if you're listening.
I just think it'd be interesting.
Yeah.
I mean,
He's been around it his whole life. He's been building calls with John Williams.
he's a great
his
turkey
grandpa.
caller and
Yeah.
turkey
Oh,
hunter.
yeah.
He's a great parent and father and husband to Gabby. And like you said, he's a mortician. So I think it'd be some interesting topics.
I think he's actually shifting his career. He's in the middle of shifting his
Is he?
career.
Wow.
I think so. Yeah. So maybe he's got some time on his hands.
Hey.
I'll have to ask you, Zach.
Well.
I'll text him right now.
I know that mortician business seems like a pretty good one to. It'd be a tough one to leave.
I just saw that I was reading something on social media, and there was like the top 4 or 5 professions that AI is not going to affect. That was
There it
one
is.
of them. Yeah, that was one of them.
Yep. Dang.
Can't automate that so much.
Nope.
All
what
right,
were
so,
some of the other ones?
I think
Was it automotive? I would think that
it
would be a
was.
tough
It
one.
was like some blue collar, mechanics,
Farming.
I don't think farming was on it. I don't recall farming being on it.
You would think it would not affect it.
One of the crazy things about, like, I have a Chat GPT account. You can give it context and it will remember to inform follow-up questions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can tell it, like, here's my family situation, or here's like a challenge I'm facing in whatever aspect of my life. And you can like throw in context. Remember that I have 2 children, and remember that I own a house, and
getting smart.
And it's like, and it will give you feedback that's contextualized for that.
It's amazing.
I no offense to our crew here, but I'm pretty sure it's that editors were like, some of the ones that were, kind of at risk.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even really understand how, but
I don't see how.
Because the human element's what makes the story good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, people who write computer code are kind of sweating it out.
That was a big one.
It happens to be really good with the proper context. It is really good at developing
that was
code.
one of the top 2 or 3, if I remember right, of professions that were in jeopardy.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing though what it can do.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So as we're kind of gearing into turkey season and getting closer and closer here, I thought it would be interesting if you kind of gave us some. We've had Stoltz in, last year doing this. We've had guests on, Matt Van Sices of the world, but any guy that comes on, and if they're on Zoom always cuts the sound
terrible.
off.
Mm-hmm.
Zoom is horrible on turkey call.
Yeah. This literally, they start calling and there's just silence.
Yes.
So it peaks out and nothing comes through. So I thought it'd be interesting if you could help us kind of help the audience with some basics on, some of the basic things that you need to know before you go in as far as using a diaphragm call. That's kind of where I was, and we would benefit from this personally, Tim and me. Yes.
Oh, I'm really good.
I have started using them the last couple of years because I haven't been hunting with these guys as much, but I've learned that they make it seem really easy.
Yeah, they've had some practice.
So where would you start?
You start with the purchase of the call, and I think the best way to probably get good sounds quickly is some sort of V configuration in the cut with a triple reeded call, whether that be a straight 3 reed or a 2.5 reed. I would start with some sort of V or perhaps a ghost cut or perhaps a bat wing. One of those 3, I think, are the easiest to blow.
So the V, this is pretty self-explanatory, but is it the top reed?
Top reed's cut with a V.
And then a ghost cut is what?
You pull the V out and it's just a little where the
Circle,
V was
basically.
is gone.
Half moon. Yeah.
Or a bat wing, the V is still there, but the 2 corners are cut away.
Okay.
So it looks like Batman on the top, or it's a cut V, or there's just this one little space right out the center of the call. Those are, I think, the easiest to get decent sounds early.
And what difference is that making exactly? Those cuts?
It makes a difference in terms of the overall pitch, the overall high end dropping into the low, and then the raspiness that you desire in your call. So if you just take a straight 3 reed and don't cut it, it's just going to be a high pitched squalling type sound. But then when you add that V in there, you get that rasp in there. So what you try to maintain is the high end that a straight reed call gives you, dropping into the raspy part of that call. And if you tried all 3 of those designs, one of those will probably suit you the best, would be my guess. In addition to that, if you find a call that works, for me, I know, when I'm getting ready to go hunting, I want 6, 8, 10 of those, and then I'm going to go through all, and you will be amazed at how all of a sudden one of them is the call. So just because they're all cut the same, reed thicknesses vary. The way it was cut would vary depending on who cut it. Overall tension, both side to side and backwards, varies amongst those calls.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's very difficult to replicate a turkey call. There are going to be differences between them. So buy a few and find the one that sounds the best for you.
Something I've always wondered about, like in fishing, you could be throwing a chartreuse jig and not get anything, and then you throw a hot pink jig, and then all of a sudden you're getting hit. Will turkeys respond differently to very slight differentiations in the call sound?
Certainly. I mean, even if it's take myself and Butsky out there. We'll work one turkey. He won't answer anybody but Paul. The next turkey we go to, he'll only answer me. And we both call pretty proficiently.
Yeah.
Or the same thing happens. What I do a lot is if mouth call's not working, go to a handheld friction, go to a box, and I'll change amongst those pretty quickly just to test him to see which one he likes. So anyone can do that, and that's a good tip.
And that's during the location process, kind of
even working them, whichever. Yeah, so they just tune in to certain sounds, and if you even when you're sitting there hunting, you hear 4 or 5 different hens yelping, but they'll only answer that one every time. You know. And the same thing, you just want to be that hen that they'll respond to.
And I wonder what the differentiation is there for them.
I think it's just personal choice or how the sound's getting to them in that wind condition or those leaves and that type of stuff. How well they're hearing it is often the case.
Yeah. Huh.
So when you're starting out and you're giving somebody that's just trying to figure out how to make a sound that's not terrible with a mouth call, what's the tip besides the cut? So mess with a different cut that, is there a placement inside the roof of your mouth, or, is there much that they can do there? The pressure with their tongue, more likely.
But certainly pressure with your tongue, but you take like a peppermint that's round, and wherever it sits in the roof of your mouth comfortably, you want to find that same position with a turkey call. It's not too far forward. It's not too far back. It's kind of right in the middle where it's just in the right place. And then blow less air. I think most people try to blow too much air across the call, but if you're sitting there yelping and you've got a candle about 4 or 5 inches in front of your face and you're blowing it out, you're blowing way too much air. It should barely move. Like if we put a candle in front of me, if I'm calling, you won't even see much movement in that. Like it's almost no air coming across that call. So the control of that air gets controlled with how well the call seals in your mouth and then your tongue pressure against that call. If you're sealed up correctly, like a window sealing shut, then very little air needs to come through that window in order to produce the sound.
And how much trimming is involved on the tape around the diaphragm call to get it to fit?
I don't trim it because I want more tape to seal better. Like I don't want any air escaping past the call. The air must go across the reeds, between your tongue and the reeds, and not over the top. So you want that seal up there in your mouth really tight.
Okay.
So I don't trim it. Some people, everybody's roof of mouth is different. Some people trim it. Less is more when you come to trimming. So take it a little bit at a time until you find that it works well. And also break the call in first before you start trimming.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
Let those wrinkles work their way out. Let the call condition. So I don't think they're truly conditioned until you run it 10 or 12 different days, wash it off, let it dry. Go back the next day, run it for a while, wash it off, let it dry. I pick my calls with toothpicks between every reed. And the more you do that, those reeds are going to stretch just a little bit more. And inevitably, that call's going to get a little bit higher in pitch and run a little bit better for you after 10 or 12 days of conditioning than it will straight out of the package. So give them a chance. Sometimes they don't run well, but they can condition into the point that they do run well for you.
How are you washing them?
Just plain water.
Okay.
Just to the point that you feel the spit coming off and then let it dry. Let it air dry in room temperature. Don't let it get in the sun. That'll hurt your reeds.
No Listerine or
I don't.
Okay. I know that used to be kind of a thing, right? Where
but
disinfect it.
I think that can affect the reeds. So I just wash it really good with water and get that bacteria off of it and then put them somewhere dark
and
put them dark and dry. And a lot of times, like during turkey season, I'll turn a fan on to dry them out quickly.
Do you suggest keeping them year to year?
I do keep mine year to year, but I wash them a few times, let them dry, and then I store them in a refrigerator.
Okay.
Sealed up.
I'd like to have a special call refrigerator at my house. Like that would make me feel like a real turkey hunter.
But the key is washing them consistently day in and day out. If you don't, they're going to mold and gain bacteria and you're going to get sick.
Uh-oh.
I don't need that. Sound like a sick
might need some new calls this year.
Steve got his calls out from last year and ran them going into the Grand Nationals and got terribly ill.
Oh, really?
Bacterial infection, viral infection.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So after the
prior to WTF. Okay. So the 3 weeks leading into the WTF, he was sick for about 10 days. He did not run a call until Tuesday prior to calling and Thursday's preliminaries.
Dang.
Like he went almost 2 weeks without running a call because he was so sick.
And that's strange for him. He's running them.
He generally doesn't get sick, but he did this time, which you might recall how sick I used to get. And then I got my calls tested and they tested positive for like 21 different bacteria. Well, this is before I was washing them. I was just putting them in a skull container and throwing them, on the dash of the truck or whatever. And it was a breeding ground for bacteria, right?
It didn't even occur to me. I think Ray I was talking to us one time about taking care of your calls, because I would just kind of put them in my vest and put them away for next year, and they'd be, as turkey season approaches, I'm trying to peel them apart and
that's horrible.
Reuse them.
It's horrible. Always toothpick them, with a flat toothpick, and then wash them and then let them dry. That it works pretty dang well.
Yeah, it seems like a major duh, but
yeah. Just clean them off. Get that saliva and bacteria off of them. Wash them a few times,
Sportsman Channel is your home for Winchester and Drury's natural born. Join the cast on some of the most hard-hitting action on outdoor TV. See the full schedule at thesportsmanchannel.com.
Okay, so got the basics of the cut down. You're trying to make that sound like, what's the most basic thing? Because you're not going to be doing kiki runs and, everything under the sun that these great callers do. What's the most basic call that you can make and be effective, in the woods with a live turkey in front of you?
Certainly, if there's two things I'm going to focus on, it's going to be the cluck or cut and the yelp. Those two things will kill 90% of the turkeys you're going to kill. Because if you don't cluck and purr well, you can still scratch on the leaves and infer the same thing. There's a feeding hen there. A lot of guys struggle with a cluck and purr. If you practice it enough, you can be proficient at it. But if you're bad at it, I would just recommend just scratching in the leaves. It's a hen's maybe she's clucking and purring, maybe she's not. Or a soft yelp will do the same thing as a cluck and purr as well. Just soften that yelp way down to where it's almost inaudible. But a yelp and a cut, and even I'm proficient enough to run all the different calls. That's how I kill my turkeys, cutting and yelping.
I think the yelping, you said a mouthful there, pun intended, about being a soft yelp. Mm-hmm. I think that's hard because when you're learning how to call, a lot of you're just like over and over and over. It's like, all right, what's the cadence? How loud do you go? All that stuff.
Sure, the soft yelp, they call it like a tree yelp, but it's also a very contented type of call. If you can't cluck and purr, like I said, you can soft yelp. It's really, if you can't soften it up with less air and less tongue pressure, just muffle it with your shirt or put your hat over your face. Just some way to not make it as loud to him. Just soften it up.
Okay.
So those soft yelps are killer, man.
Then what about...
Sometimes guys call too loud.
Yeah, I was going to say, that would be... Well, yeah, because especially if you're not a proficient caller, you don't necessarily have the skill set to know how to dial that part back. You're just calling, right? It's just like, I know how to do this and this is what I'm going to do. When you're yelping, how many, what's the cadence of how many yelps do you give until you kind of stop? You know what I mean? Like there's a cadence to it, right?
I think it varies throughout the season. Earlier in the year, you can get by with more calling. Middle part of the year, it's a little less calling. Towards the end, you can start getting a little bit more aggressive again. But it's very hard to put a number on it. They used to say call 15 minutes or put your call away for 15 minutes, then call again. But I just play the scene. If they're vocal, I'm vocal. If they're quiet, I'm backing off just a little bit. And I try to get him vocal by raising my tone and how often I call. Like I call more often than most, but I'm trying to get the response from him, but I feel confident enough in the fact that my calls are realistic. I don't mind calling a lot, because I don't think I'm going to deter anything.
So you think like 6, 7, 8 yelps and then you kind of stop and then, listen a little bit and then kind of a few more and you're doing that for 5-10 minutes. I guess it depends on what's happening with the bird.
Yeah, exactly. And then maybe switch to a friction call or a box call or whatever. And just listen, let them tell you how often to call. Like that's the best way to do it. Like if they've shut up completely, I slow way down, check him every 15 minutes or so. And you think about it, like, why did he shut up? Well, he's standing there looking at hens. So then the patience game needs to come into play. You wait till he frees up, then you can start yelping at him a little bit more. But why burn your chips if he's not responding? If you can see him, that's a different story. If he's alone, then you can go after him and call a little bit. But if you can't see him and you're not hearing him, he's probably still there. He's probably just standing there looking at a hen.
Is it also true where maybe they're on the move heading towards you, like they're silent because they're moving?
It can be. More often than not, it's because they're with a hen. But sometimes if they've gobbled well and then shut up, chances are they may be coming to you. Then again, a hen may have went to him.
Gotcha.
Which happens more often than them walking to you.
Yeah.
But you have to play it like he's coming to you, or you're going to screw up. So
Yeah, and that screw up factor is something that I obsess over. And I felt like, because I'm a decent caller, I'm not a good caller. And I felt like if I can see the gobbler and he's coming towards me, I'm just like, he's on the trajectory. I'm just going to shut up because I don't know if I'm going to do something at the last minute to be like, oh, that would be my tendency.
Like, all right, he's actually committed. What I always love about watching you guys' hunts and Terry and his crew, it's like, you get them to gobble when they're right there, at the decoy or right before, getting shot. And I don't have enough balls to do that.
My mouth is dry.
Yeah, I can't make the sounds. It's like, it's like that's the next step almost for, people that aren't as proficient calling. Like I can get them to come to us, but once they're close, like I don't want to screw it up. I'm almost too scared to do that, right?
If you've got a decoy present, you're probably not going to screw it up.
Yeah.
But then again, he may not gobble to you because oftentimes when they make visual contact and they've honed in on the decoy and they're coming to him, a lot of times it's impossible to make that turkey gobble because he's already coming, you know? So you could try. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. But if there's not a decoy and he's looking, you can generally make that turkey gobble. But a lot of times you're better off, make sure he's within range before you do that.
So when you're doing that, is that where you start cutting, or you what are you doing in your call sequence there to get them fired? Because you guys are firing them up right there usually.
Generally, I'm going to cut, real quick, try to shock him. But, it just, every situation's different. Can he see your position? Can he not? And, I've hung a lot of turkeys up trying to get them to gobble, know. So your best bet sometimes is just silence and let them walk. A lot of guys they call too much when a bird's actually broke and actually coming. To Tim's point, let him walk on in. So, and I say it all the time, let him take steps. Oftentimes when a turkey's walking, he's not gobbling. When he's gobbling a lot, chances are he's not walking a lot.
Huh. Well, it makes sense. They're sitting there strutting and spitting and drumming and
trying to get her to come to him.
Yeah.
Sometimes they've just got their places where they will not leave, and that depends on where you're at in the mating cycle. Have the hens been coming to him? He's used to it. If you take the first part of the season and the hens aren't coming to them, a lot of times the hen flocks are together with a gobbler or two, and there's lots of gobblers that haven't had one yet. That's when they're most likely to come. As that hen group splits up during peak of mating, a lot of gobblers have girlfriends early on in the morning, especially, and they're used to the hens coming to them, and they just get stubborn and won't come to you till a little bit later in the day. But then you get to the latter part of the season when those hens start to nest, that's a whole new ball game. Then you can get by with a lot more, and they get a little bit more desperate. But it takes several days of them not having a hen before they get in that desperation mode, just like they were early part of the season. I love early and late. Center part gets a little trickier because they are so henned up oftentimes.
Sure. Do you read the color of their head at all? As they're coming in, does that inform your tactics?
To some degree. I mean, it's hard to disagree with that white-headed bird coming through the woods. That white seems like go more so than the red. Sometimes red or blue will trick you a little bit, but I've seen them come in with every color on their head. So, but whites generally, they're on their way.
Yeah.
I like a white-headed turkey coming.
I wonder what's, the red is when they're really fired up, right? And the blood's kind of.
Yeah, and you could kind of see it. Like I've seen turkeys at a distance just picking along and feeding, and then you get to the edge of the field and I got to get the turkey fired up. So you're calling, and all of a sudden he gets disinterested in the feeding and starts looking for the source of that hen more. And then all of a sudden you see that color come into his head, and you're like, oh, he's paying attention now. You keep calling, keep hammering him, and you can see their body posture change. And then when he faces you, he's really getting interested. If he puffs up a little bit, and then when they drop down and that head goes down and they start facing you, you're going to kill that turkey generally. But so you change that game with the calling, and birds that you can see that you're working help you understand birds that you can't see that you're working.
Oh, yeah.
Like pay attention to birds that you can see and watch how long it takes to change his mind and get him to commit to come to you. Also watch birds that don't pay attention and then end up walking the other way.
Well,
so
that's a lot of those.
These same things are happening to birds that you can't see, but when you can see it, you start to understand why all the scenarios paint out in different results.
Yeah. Sometimes, like I've watched plenty of gobblers just completely pay no mind to my calling, and it's a desperate feeling, especially like if you're plopped in one place trying to fill them out of a blind. It's like, they just completely disregarded me. Who knows how many other birds are out there?
I think that's where people
me.
panic call to overcall, probably, right?
Yep, they can. They can, but then again, you get that next one. It's the beauty of turkey hunting. All of a sudden, he fires up because of all that calling and comes in. So it depends on their testosterone that day.
Yeah.
The weather has a lot to do with it. The last time he was with a hen, what's his hierarchy in the flock? If he's a subordinate, he's not going to be as likely to come in gobbling and carry on. So it's such a chess match. And if you look at a flock of 17 longbeards in the fall, all of them are going to react differently next spring when they split up. That's the interesting thing about turkey hunting. No two are the same, man. Every hunt's different. That's so beautiful.
What do you think about a bird that maybe hears you early in the morning? And do you think that they kind of drop a pin for where that was, and maybe later on in the day they free up?
They can. I don't hunt like that a lot. Like, I'm always on the go. I think they can.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's probably a lot of birds that come to calls very quietly and don't find the caller there because the caller's moved on.
Mm-hmm.
In answer to your question, like, I think in general, and I've seen this through the years, most people hunt too fast and too hard.
Yeah.
Like, they're looking for that next hot turkey to come in.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm guilty of that as well. But the more I hunt, the older I get, the slower I hunt. It drives Wade and Perry crazy, but man, it just slow down and go at a snail's pace and you'll kill more turkeys. That's probably the best advice I could give you, is slow down to where you feel odd at how slowly you're hunting.
Okay.
I talked about it a little bit last year, my hunt with Cameron during the youth season. It was out of almost necessity. We slowed down because when you got all that gear and you got the bog pod and you can't really do the run and gun style. So you're forced to kind of sit there. It's just a production to try to get everything torn down and then put back up. And, you got to have the right spot. So it forced us to sit there, and it was really slow for periods. We had them right out of the gate and then it got real slow, but because we were forced to kind of just chill out, it worked itself out and they came around finally. It's like they were doing their own little sequence, or whatever they were feeding or wherever they were going on their little route. And they finally circled back around to where they heard the calling, but we had to sit and just chill out for a while. And that can be the hard part.
If you think about their day, like, they're on the limb all night, so they feed before they go up to roost, right? You see them in the feed fields in the afternoon. Then they roost. They've sat there all evening. Well, the first thing they're going to do is get with hens and gobble and discharge and go through a bunch of energy. And then the hens start to leave them. Well, they're hungry. So a lot of times, once they lose those hens, they go to feeding for maybe 30 minutes, maybe an hour, maybe a few hours. And then all of a sudden they get their crawl full, and then you can go to killing them. So that's exactly what you just described. Gobbled early, got with the hens, broke free, got quiet. They're feeding. Yeah. They're not very interested. All of a sudden, I'm full. I'm going to go looking again.
Yeah.
That's why that 10:30 to 1 o'clock is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had enough situations that have kind of reinforced that. Like, it's fun right off, right at dawn, you hear them gobbling and stuff, and then it goes quiet and then it's nothing. It's like, should we just go? But eventually, maybe 9, 10 o'clock, you just get this quiet bird that comes in and it just kind of startles you because you're not expecting
Some of it's intel too, though, which cell cameras have helped with this too, or trail cameras in general. It's like, you didn't know that, if I would have just stayed here, like every day, these birds are here somewhere between 10 and 2 or 10 and 1 or whatever. It's like, it's a kind of a boring style of hunting them. But if you just are there when they are coming through feeding or they're coming through their pattern, you're going to catch up to them.
Yeah, exactly.
They
hit certain areas. It's different times of the day.
Yeah.
Some of it's around the roost that first hour, and others it's 10, 11, 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
And you learn that through time. And historically, it'll stay the same. So you cache that in your mind and you go, I'm going to go check that field at 11. I see a lot of birds there on my cameras, or historically hunting them there at that time. So that they're very patternable from that standpoint year after year.
What I've not been able to settle in my head is, do they have a daily cycle? Maybe it depends on the property
they
that they're on.
They definitely have a cycle daily. Yep.
Okay. Because it seemed like there was one flock I was watching one time. It seemed like they would come through every 3 days or so. Like, they would roost in a few different places and eventually they'd make it back through, but it wasn't like a 24-hour cycle where I could count on them always coming through. It was every few days.
Well, watch them in the fall. Watch a flock of turkeys. I mean, they're just sifting and taking their time, and they're not always walking. They don't walk very far, honestly. And they'll sift over here, and then they'll roost here. And then the next day they're sifting over here. And then, so there is a cycle to a lot of them. And then other gobblers, he'll roost the same damn tree on the same point every night. But in general, turkeys do float around a great deal.
Yeah. The chess match, the chess match aspect of turkey hunting is probably one of the funnest parts of it.
I always say they don't know where they're going until they get there. And that's what makes them so challenging, because they're kind of, you can watch them and one grasshopper will change an entire flock's direction of travel. You know, it's weird how little things change their direction of travel.
Well, that was a conversation we started to get into last week and Tag It or Bag It about TSS and how, like, if you're using those TSS loads to extend your shots out to 60 and 70 yards, it's taken away a lot of the kind of the mystique and the magic of the turkey hunting experience and getting them in close and playing that game.
For sure. You guys got to shoot some of the prototype stuff last year from Winchester, the new TSS load that they're coming out with, or they're out with this year. So what were your thoughts? Obviously, it's not night and day, but kind of night and day difference of what a traditional turkey load looked like versus the TSS.
For sure. Like it'll change you by at least one or two guns. So in other words, if you were shooting a 3.5 inch 12 gauge, you're going to get the same results with a 20 gauge, a lot less recoil, and probably have the same results. So I think it's more about stepping down in what you're carrying than, you know, making your 12 gauge shoot 90 yards or whatever. That, to me, that's what it does. It's like you could kill them, like Rob Keck kills everything with a 410.
Yeah.
That's one of the greatest turkey hunters alive right now. He shoots them all with a 410.
Yeah.
Just because of TSS. He's got a 35, 40 yard gun and a really light gun to handle for his grandchildren and whatnot. We shoot 20 gauge, and that TSS makes it a positively a dead turkey if it's 50 yards. Now, granted, we kill the bulk of them inside 20, but every once in a while, you want to have that confidence that if you need to take a shot at 40, 45, 50 yards, you can do it with that TSS. It's vicious. And it kills them more dead. Wow, does it kill them dead?
It's like a real knockdown power to it.
There's less flop.
Stone cold.
Stone cold. There's less flop. You're going to get that turkey with TSS. That's all I can say. It's a great thing to have, especially if you're limited in time. You haven't killed many turkeys and you finally get that shot. You're gonna close the deal with that TSS.
Yeah, worth though.
It's worth the extra dollars. It is.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning that on all your guns, you guys run Leupold scopes on them. So you feel
absolutely
confident at your 50 yards. You've tested all your shots. It's not like
we know exactly what's going to hit him.
Yeah.
You're
not going out there on a whim and taking a
range work and making sure that your pattern is, hitting the turkey where you want it. And I shoot a crosshair. I put 1/3 of the pattern above the center line and 2/3 below, so that if I'm aiming right at his eyeball or his neck, I'm hitting him perfectly.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
So however you aim at the turkey, put the pattern on that crosshair accordingly at about 40 yards so you know where it's going to hit him.
Sure. Yeah.
So as you guys go out and, we've talked about calling, we've talked about the ammo now. What about like the decoy setup? We use AVNX decoys, the HDR decoys. What it seems like everybody's really gravitated towards in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Is there a certain that a lay down hen, a feeding hen?
I like it. Either hen, any hen, depending on the height of the grass. We'll either put the feeder up or the lay down, depending on what the visual to that turkey is. The feeder, you need shorter, or that lay down, you need shorter grass. The feeder on a stake in the taller grass, taller cover, we put her up. And then I'll have a Jake generally. And in 90% of our setups, that's how we kill them, is that setup, or no decoy at all, depending if it's a calling scenario or not. Or we might use a trophy tom in certain situations as well. Like, we deal with a lot of open country up there. So those trophy toms come in clutch, at least getting close, getting set up, getting the decoys out, the hen and the Jake. Like, we've killed a lot of turkeys with those trophy toms.
Yeah. So on the Jake decoy, is it full strut or is it?
It's a half strut.
Half strut.
Head back.
Yeah. So just kind of gives what kind of vibe is that giving off, I guess, for the other turkeys?
They get pissed real easily. Like it's a subordinate with his hen and they just don't stand for it. But I've also seen really big gobblers walk in and not like that Jake decoy or not like a strutting decoy and go the other way. Like I was saying, you see 17 gobblers in the fall, all 17 are going to give you different reactions to calls and decoys the next year because the pecking order differs amongst the flock.
Sure.
If you get the ones that aren't very aggressive and his testosterone isn't very high, chances are he's not coming to a call or a decoy.
What about orientation of the decoys? Does that matter at all?
I like them within about 30 yards, 20 yards, because I'm trying to get that turkey, if he hangs up at another 10 or so beyond that. Like if I had a distance, I'm probably putting them at 20 yards, and I generally have them facing towards where I want the gobbler. So in other words, I put the backs of the decoy towards the approaching gobbler. I want him to think they're walking away.
Yeah. Okay.
Because if you watch a flock of turkeys, somebody's always following somebody. So I'd rather him see their back than them facing him like he's coming to them.
Yeah, makes sense.
That does make sense. I would not have thought of that.
Yes.
Watch them. They follow the leader. They just follow.
You need more leaders, Tim, walking near you.
It's cool. I'm already getting some flocks on camera. And one of my properties, like it always has a bunch of hens, but I just don't see very many gobblers on it.
They'll be there.
Yeah. And that's the trick, is just kind of knowing when they will be, because I'm not quite sure where they are living.
They're just somewhere else in a gobbler flock.
Yeah.
And vice versa. You can have all the gobblers, and then turkey season gets here and they disperse and you have one or two left. I have a farm like that, the farm behind my house. We're holding like 20 longbeards right now. But by the time the season's here, historically, there's 3 or 4 left. But they're always winter there. The gobblers are always there.
Crazy.
It's amazing.
It is interesting how they disperse like that.
Some of them disperse miles too.
It's crazy, which I'm sure Dr. Chamberlain's talked about this quite a bit. And he's a great follow on social media if you want to learn more about turkeys.
The best.
But it's interesting where in the fall, you're sitting there in your deer stand and you might see a flock of 50 and there might be 15 longbeards, or 20 longbeards. You're like, oh, this spring's going to be great. And by the time the spring rolls around, you got 3 or 4.
Much.
Yeah.
God dang it.
Yeah.
They're just doing what they do. There's 2 must follows if you're a turkey hunter or a deer hunter. If you're a turkey hunter, you got to follow Dr. Chamberlain. Mm-hmm. If you're a deer hunter, follow Dr. Grant Woods.
That's right.
Those 2.
I thought you were going to say Matt Drury.
Those 2 are the wealth of knowledge in their individual fields. They're so phenomenal.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so Tim, we got some, let's see here. We have, what do we got here? Rapid fire Q&A. Is that what it is? Something new for Mark, just for Mark.
Oh, can't wait.
HS Strut and the DoD Signature Series of calls puts the sound of spring at your fingertips. From the first owl hoots of the morning to the last quiet clucks and purrs in the moment of truth. Be ready for any calling situation the Turkey Woods can throw at you with HS Strut.
So we got a DoD Signature Series we've had for probably 3 years now, maybe. And that's a line that you and, Terry, of course, has some input, but
and
Tad Brown, really dove into and created. What's the main cut? What's the main cut you guys use on those mouth calls? There's 3. I think there was 3.
Well,
cuts.
there's the tongue cutter plus. There's the ghost tongue. There's a V call in it. So really, whatever you want. There's 4 different calls in that line. So whichever cut you're accustomed to. The difference is, and I think this is important. Like instead of coming to a sharp cut up on top, we have it a little bit broader, which is the tongue series. So it's not so raspy. It's got it's easier to go from high to low with it. And we're working on some new stuff right now that's coming out in the HS line. Myself, Butsky, Terry, Tad, Ricky Joe Bishop. Whoa. The 5 of us are playing back and forth with a bunch of different designs, and we're real close to hammering those out. They'll be available in spring of 26.
Awesome. Good deal.
They're pretty, man. I mean, it's all brand new cuts too.
Sweet.
We should do a fundraiser or raffle or something where we give away used mouth calls.
Sign them.
Yeah.
They actually are signed.
Hey, we're halfway there.
Comes on the tape.
Just got to use them.
Alex used to be infamous for that. Alex Rutledge. He'd come up to you. What are you blowing? He'd grab it and throw it in his mouth and blow it. Oh, I like that.
No.
And he wasn't doing it as a joke. Like he legitimately would do it.
Dang.
Alex, no.
Yeah, you had to watch your calls when he was around.
How dare you?
And he'd get his out. You want to try it? No.
Good.
Oh, boy.
Alex is a character.
I saw he was just on our social media this last week.
Well, his booth was across from ours, And I was over there saying hello to him. I met Alex in probably 85, 86, right?
That's
Turkey call.
These guys.
We used to travel together. Like he and I would stay in the same room and stuff, like, because we were trying to save money and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I went down to Birch Tree, stayed with him and his mom. We went fishing. We went hunting together and whatnot. He came up here and I went over and was shooting the breeze with him about old times. And this friend of his walked up that could goose call without a call.
Yeah.
And then the other guy that could duck call. And I was like, holy cow. So I said, care if I record this? I thought it was amazing.
Some talented people out there.
Yeah. It was neat.
Yeah.
That's how you impress a woman.
Yeah, big time.
Oh yeah.
Big time.
Maybe at that show it might work.
Yeah, that's where the right women are.
Yeah.
Nowhere else in life.
Right. It's a very niche audience.
All right, Tim. Hit us with the first. Here, do you want to go every other, or are you just going to hit them all? How you want to do it? Rapid fire Q&A.
Let's run through them all here.
Okay.
How should some of these are a little okay.
Can't wait.
We'll do our best here. How should you set up on a turkey on the roost?
If I had my druthers, I'm on the same ridge as him, and I am slightly off to one side of that ridge instead of the very top. So I want him to come looking for me. I am slightly above him in elevation, and I'm at 100 to 150 yards from him. If I had to pick, a perfect setup.
Very concise.
And I'm in there in the black dark. That you cannot let him hear you or see you get into that spot, because he'll stand up there and gobble and act like he didn't see you, and he saw you, and he'll go the other way. You've got to use the cover of darkness on your side.
Lights or no lights?
No, hell no, no lights.
Okay.
Even like a blue or a red or anything like that? Green?
No, coon dog, no.
Dog.
Sounds like there's a story there.
I've been hunting with him before where we got busted off the roost and he was going in with his
it's
little
making
light.
sense.
It makes more sense now.
Yeah, grab my shirt tail. Don't turn your light off.
Okay, how should you call if a bird goes quiet?
It depends on the time of the year, but oftentimes whatever I've been doing, I do the dead opposite. So if I've been calling a lot, I go down to nothing, scratching the leaves. If I haven't been calling much, I'm going to gear it up, see if I can get him to go. So generally let them dictate the overall conversation. If they're not gobbling much, I'm probably not calling so much.
Okay. What's your preferred decoy setup on a smaller property where you can't run and gun?
A Jake and a hen, lay down a hen, somewhere where they're visible and you're not.
Okay. What do you do with your fall plots from spring through summer?
My fall plots, spring through summer, well, the clover fields we just maintain. And that's fantastic for turkey hunting, man. We kill a lot of turkeys in our deer clover plots. So, but if you're like take a bean field or a corn field, they're going to be growing again, But if it's like a brassica field, we'll just keep them dead and get them ready for the next year, or let them grow up, go in and mow them, spray them, and then get them ready.
Okay. What's your seed mix for planting warm season grasses?
25% of side oats, gamma, cave and rock switch, big blue, and Indian grass. 25% of each.
Bam.
Gives you a diversity of a lot of different heights and plants. If you plant the same thing, it turns into this just wall of the same, same grass. It's not doing much good. And, you really want to have some legumes in that mix as well, so that there's diversity out there.
Okay. How do you call a gobbler off a hen, especially in the late season?
This can be tricky because a lot of times they won't budge. But then again, I've seen other gobblers. He's tired of her because maybe she's not breeding as much anymore, or he's trying to pick up another hen. I get really aggressive in that situation. So number one, I'm trying to call the hen. She might bring him. Number two, if that doesn't work, perhaps I pull him off of her. I love to get in a position where I can see that gobbler. And I always talk about seeing them because we have a lot of open country where we can see.
Yeah.
So we try to sneak to a position, whatever distance it is, 400 yards, 100 yards. And we try to see his reaction to see if he's responding or not.
Sure.
And then we'll try to get closer too. Getting close makes a difference oftentimes with turkey hunting. Get in their roundhouse.
Never heard Matt nod his head harder in my life.
to the setup there.
Sometimes they don't breed as much as they used to.
We talked about the turkey like not calling as hard when they're getting close, but if they're fired up, are you still getting with it?
I generally shut up till they're within range.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It depends who I'm with. Like if I'm just hunting and it doesn't matter for the camera or the person, I don't call at all if they're coming. Just let them walk in and get shot. If you're just trying to kill the turkey, you're better off just letting him walk. if you're trying to get their first hunter fired up about the gobbling or whatever, if you feel like you can get away with it, then I will.
Okay.
I'll keep them gobbling. Or if it's for the video camera, I call more just to make them gobble. And I just love hearing them gobble, but if I'm just hunting, I'm shutting up.
Okay. Good feedback.
What is your heaviest bird and in what state did you kill it?
28 in the state of Iowa.
Jeez. Tank. Most important turkey vocalization to master?
Yelping.
Yeah. Do you prefer late or early turkey season?
All, but if you really want to have some fun, early is the best, but they don't do it on up into the day like they will later in the season. So there's not a lot of foliage, so you get picked a lot easier. So there's differences, but as far as the gobbling and hens vocally talking back and stuff, early is just hard to beat.
Nice.
How does the spring, when you hear somebody say we had an early spring, how does that affect it though?
I mean, it does affect it because, you're generally dealing with warmer temperatures and hens are going to nest a little bit sooner and your foliage is popping out, your ticks are out. So it does affect it. I prefer a later spring personally, but I think in terms of nesting success, earlier springs are going to give you better habitat quicker and therefore more nesting success.
That makes sense.
I haven't asked you guys this before. You guys are so tuned in with the El Niños and La Niñas and all that.
We're in a La Niña right now.
So do we think there's going to be
drought?
And will that be a late spring, early spring?
Possibly early.
Yeah.
Look at our temps.
Yeah.
Look at the forecast. Warm.
Yeah.
No moisture. It's supposed to rain tomorrow, but in general, we've been dry and warm. We have been for 3 years.
Yeah.
It's just the trend just continues.
Yeah.
Because we can't get out of these damn La Niñas. We were in El Nino for like 6-7 months and we're back to La Niña now.
And La Niña's drought, El Nino's what?
It can also be drought, but it depends where it shifts the jet stream to. But El Nino can also be drought, but oftentimes it's more of like a normal pattern.
Gotcha. Yeah, man. We talked about this ad nauseum before, but that's why I've switched like almost all my food plots to clover plots because I cannot grow a food plot in the fall.
It's been miserable.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys are, Wade, Perry, you guys are after Forrest and Terry over and over, replant. But like, your average guy, it's like, I got one shot to get it done. And if it doesn't go up, it's like, okay, maybe I'll get a replant in there, but the likelihood's low. So what's the safest bet? Clover
or a cereal grain.
Yeah.
Like winter grass is a real safe bet.
Yeah. Yeah.
But 25 is supposed to be the bad year. I've talked about it before, this Gleisberg index, like 25 is supposed to be like 36 was and 47 were, which was where they were. 36 was the Dust Bowl. It's supposed to be historic droughts in 25, according to this 89-year planetary cycle. Now, is it off slightly? Did we already go through it? Or what were the years like leading into 1936? What was 34 and 35 like? Did we just see that in 23, 24? But supposedly this is the bad year.
So are you doing anything to prep for it?
I did a couple years ago. I dug all of my ponds out deeper to try and hold more water, and they're still low. We just aren't getting any moisture. So I'm hoping they fill up here this spring. But other than that, clover fields, and then we're going to be in the ground early this spring with our corn and beans. And then we'll be very careful about what we choose. If we're in that dry pattern come this fall, I don't know what we're going to do. Like if it's as dry as 36 was or 1847 was, I got down this rabbit hole of these droughts and I found a paper where a guy studied all the droughts for the last 1,000 years. And that 89-year mark was like every year based on tree rings. It's called the Gleisberg Index.
Sounds like another podcast.
Surprised you didn't know about
it.
It
has to do with a planetary alignment that happens once every 89 years.
We know.
Well, the planets did just line up this year, like for the first time, right?
For the first time in 89 years.
Or something weird.
I didn't pay attention to that part of it, but they did. Like Ben and I were walking out of, it was like the last day or the second to last day of the deer season. And we're walking out and I remember I stopped him. I'm like, hey, look up at the moon. Cause you could see right as, it's coming up, you could see all those planets back there look like, bright stars or whatever.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, it is pretty neat.
Why did I just picture you guys holding hands?
We did. Why wouldn't we?
Okay.
That's how we get in and out of the dark. He said, hold my shirt tail.
Hold my hand. Poor Ben.
Hey, Ben's fine. Ben killed a real nice deer this year. He can take the rising. He's getting married here in a month.
Right on.
So
to a girl.
Ben's looking at us. That's right.
Right on.
All right.
Well, we got some new Rack Pack members.
We do. If you want to join the Rack Pack, head over to Facebook, hit the little magnifying glass, the search button, and just type in 100% Wild Rack Pack. It'll come up, answer a few questions. You're in. It's a great community where we get to hang out, make fun of each other, and share each other's successes and failures. Some more than others.
Yeah, no comment.
All right, we got a couple new names. Ty Brugman, Paul Campbell, Nick Richmond.
Whoa.
Is that one of his
I think
relatives?
it's his ne'er-do-well brother.
Welcome, Nick. Isabel Ringing. Fake name.
You know, if it's a
week.
female, it's not real.
That's we get a couple every once in a while. It is rare.
Yeah. Isabel ain't real.
Mark, any closing thoughts for us as we...
Not at all, man. Go kill a turkey. Have some fun. It's best time of the year coming up.
That's right.
The best. I can't wait.
These warm temps have kind of got me amped for turkey season already. Usually it takes me a few more weeks, but I'm ready for it.
I can't wait. There's a lot of turkeys on the landscape right now, more than we've had the last few years.
Sweet.
Quite a few birds out there.
So, well, okay. So you, is there anything from your Hall of Fame speech that you would want to share, or that you may remember, that you would want to share as a closing thought in regards to the turkey population, or just the heritage in general?
I think it's about setting an example from a conservation standpoint. That was the one thing that I was talking about. And I said, here's our promise from our family to yours is we're going to continue to follow in the footsteps of leaders like Mossy Oak and Bass Pro and Winchester. And these people have done remarkable things, especially when it comes to the conservation of the wild turkey. Hunters are the greatest conservationists out there, and I think turkey hunters lead that pack. So make sure you're a shining example of being a turkey hunter. Make sure you're a conservationist. Make sure you are leaving it better than you found it.
I'd say that's a
Well
great
said.
way to end it.
Yep. All right. Well, gang, we'll see you same time next week.
All right. Till next time. Peace out.
Deercast is completely updated and better than ever. Prep, predict, and pursue your target buck with our detailed maps, weather, and 14-day movement predictor.
We're adding new videos every week, so make sure to click that subscribe button and check out all of our amazing content. This episode of DoD TV is brought to you by Deercast Maps, waypoints, weather, virtual rain gauges, and more. Every tool you need to get ahead of your game.